Pancho Villa would have his revenge. On January 11, 1916, some of Villa's men stopped a train south of Chihuahua City and forced 16 employees of the American-owned Asarco Mining Company of Tucson out into the desert. Then they shot them all, simply because they were Americans. Having sent a message to the U.S. authorities, Villa hoped for a softening of their position toward him. Instead, the killings had the opposite effect. Clearly losing his war against the Mexican government forces, Villa decided to gamble. He would raid across the border into New Mexico, plunder what food, weapons, and ammunition he could from U.S. citizens, then fight his way to Mexico City. On March 9th, Villa invaded New Mexico with more than 500 mounted raiders and headed for the small town of Columbus, just 3 miles across the border. His men attacked just before dawn and surprised the sleeping town and about 80 U.S. soldiers stationed nearby. As the Mexicans burned and looted Columbus, its residents grabbed their guns and opened fire, joined by the machine guns of the U.S. troops. Villa's caballeros scampered back into Mexico with several hundred captured U.S. weapons and more than 100 horses and mules. U.S. soldiers pursued the raiders 15 miles into Mexico before returning to American soil. Villa had lost nearly 200 men in the disastrous raid, which had killed 10 U.S. soldiers and about as many civilians in town. U.S. General John J. Pershing ordered nearly 10,000 American troops and a squadron of aircraft to invade Mexico. Marching out of Fort Bliss and nearby border outpost, he was determined to capture Villa in retaliation for the Columbus raid. Columns of cavalry and infantry, supplied by long lines of trucks, pushed deep into Chihuahua. The Americans fought some of Villa's men, but he and his revolutionaries escaped into the mountains. The American invasion enraged Mexican President Venustiano Carranza. On April 12th, his soldiers attacked the American army at the town of Parral in southern Chihuahua, more than 500 miles inside Mexico. Pershing, realizing that his pursuit of Villa threatened to become a larger war with Mexico, ordered his command to fall back, and he concentrated his forces in the middle of the state. From here, U.S. troops patrolled the plains, mountains, and valleys of Chihuahua, skirmishing for months to come against both Villistas and Carrancistas. While the Americans were deep in Chihuahua, Villa's men again raided into the U.S. On May 5th, about 80 raiders attacked a small settlement, only 80 residents, and a U.S. border camp at Glen Springs, Texas. At the same time, other attackers hit the little town of Boquillas, 12 miles down the Rio Grande, as well as a nearby mine. The Mexicans looted what they could from the area and fought a 3-hour battle with a squad of U.S. troops, killing 3 American soldiers and 1 civilian, and taking 2 hostages back into Mexico. Villa lost 1 man killed and 3 wounded. A U.S. column of 80 troopers left Marathon, Texas, pushed into Mexico, and saved the captives. The United States was shocked by events on the border and news from Europe. On June 3, 1916, Congress passed the National Defense Act. The U.S. Army was getting an overhaul and reorganization. Munitions plants started roaring to life all over the country. With Pershing in Mexico and Villa still on the loose, the fighting between Americans and Mexicans spread. On June 15th, 100 Mexicans, following Carranza's orders, crossed the Rio Grande 30 miles south of Laredo and attacked 150 American troops at San Ignacio, killing 3 and wounding 6. On June 21st, in Chihuahua, Mexican government soldiers defeated a detachment of U.S. troops in the Battle of Carrizal. Apparently, the feuding Mexican factions agreed on one thing: Americans were the enemy.